Hey guys, it's Will with Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Guess what? I'm still at home. It's another coronavirus lockdown special episode coming at you. Guess what I have? It's another 88 Films release. It's another Jackie Chan movie. It's another Sammo Hung movie. It's Heart of Dragon, released in 1985. This is the 88 Films Blu-ray release. This came out in 2020. I think in April of 2020. May have been May of 2020. Everything in my head is becoming like it's like a knotted bunch of yarn that someone left in a drawer for years that you have to untangle every string from to make any sense of. Even my analogy is confusing. So there you go. There's the front and the back of it. So I'm going to talk. This is a Blu-ray review. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about this release. I'm going to talk about the physical aspects of it. I'm going to talk about the presentation of the film, and then I'm going to talk about the bonus features. I will say, before getting into this, as a little bit of a teaser to you, and at the risk of having to eat my words later, or maybe shooting myself in the foot, or whatever analogy you'd like to use, whatever idiom, this is my new favorite Blu-ray release of like a classic Hong Kong movie. And I'll get into the reasons for that as I go through this review. But this is just like, I mean, as with all the 88 Films releases, this is like spectacular bang for your buck. I have a bunch of them behind me here. What is that? Come Drink With Me, Hero Shed No Tears. This is 8 Diagram Pole Fighter, maybe, and then Dragons Forever is up here. And so if you saw the Dragons Forever review that I did, that's a monumental release. This doesn't have as much material as that one does, but there's a couple things on here that are just incredible. So I'll go through the physical aspects of the release first, and then I'll get into the presentation of the film and the bonus features. So you have this amazing slipcase with the artwork by Kung Fu Bob, R.P. O'Brien. If you watch the channel with any regularity, you know we love Kung Fu Bob, and we follow him on Instagram. He follows us on Instagram. He's a cool dude. He's really enthusiastic about Hong Kong cinema, which is really awesome. Obviously, we love to see that. He's so much fun to interact with online. And he does amazing artwork. Like, come on, how incredible is this? This is one of my favorite. I say it every time. This is one of my favorite covers from him. And guess what? I didn't do the reversible cover art, so we got double Kung Fu Bob there. And I think these are limited to the slipcase is limited to the first 3,000, I believe, the first run. And then, as always with the 88 Films releases, it's got this little thing here. So this all comes in, shrink wrap. But there's a little hole there that you can punch your finger into, or like a key or a knife or whatever, so you can unwrap the shrink wrap. I had never seen that before when I got my first 88 Films release, and it blew my mind. I recently got a Finding Nemo Blu-ray for my son that was from Germany. I didn't mean to get the German one. It's a whole long story with how we ended up with the German one. But the case was similar, and so I'm like, wait, is this just how Europeans do it? Like, I mean, we all know that in terms of, I'm not gonna get into the whole thing of it, but it's simply in terms of the design of things. Europeans are pretty far ahead of us here in the United States. So, they're just better at designing Blu-ray cases. So there's the disc there, and there is that awesome poster with Jackie and Sammo, and then you have the reversible cover art here. That's pretty cool. I like the Kung Fu Bob one more, although that is pretty cool. The Dragons Forever one I did flip because it has like an awesome, like vintage 80s, like one of those hand-drawn style, like 80s, classic Hong Kong 80s movie posters in it. So, and then the booklet here is awesome. There's an essay in here by, I think, James Oliver, who's done other essays for 88 Films. I did the essay for Clan of the White Lotus, which I read pretty recently and will be reviewing soon. And so the essay here just kind of gives you context for the film, what was happening in Jackie and Sammo's careers when the film came out, and what they were trying to achieve with the film. And it's most of what is in the essay you will learn if you watch all the bonus features on here. But there is some stuff in the essay that isn't quite touched upon by the bonus features. It's kind of cool. And it's, if you're like a huge fan of these films, obviously it's worth reading because it just gives you extra material, extra context. And it's just fun to engage with different people's impressions and opinions. Like, come on, how cool are these posters? What? And so this movie was called, it's got a bunch of different titles. Yeah, so First Mission, as you can see here, was one of the titles. I think that may have been the Japan title. I honestly can't remember. Hey, this guy's famous. He's a director. We got all these awesome pictures here. There's a lot of really awesome photos of. Here's the Dick Way fight. That's really cool. And I heard Sammo say his name is Dick Y in an interview on here. So it's entirely possible that is yet another name that I've been pronouncing wrong for years. I'm going to keep saying Dick Way until someone tells me definitively, hey, you're wrong. Call him Dick Y, which I'm sure will happen. For some reason, this reminded me of No Code, the Pearl Jam album. Just like seeing that kind of quickly like that. There's Jackie. And it's just a list of credits at the end. And of course, this is classic from the movie. And then there's that. So the movie here looks absolutely incredible. And that's one of the reasons that this is one of my new favorite Hong Kong releases. Although I should say that all the 88 films releases of these classic 80s Jackie Sammo movies looks incredible because they're from 4K. This one I think is this from 2K. 2K they're from 2K and 4K remasters depending on the release. So I think Miracles was a 4K, I want to say. I'm not going to get into this because I know I'm going to get everything wrong because I didn't do my research beforehand. But there is at least one 4K, and then a lot of the other ones are 2K remasters. But it's a really well done. Look, what is even happening right now? I put the thing on upside down. Am I losing my mind? I think I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry to say. There you go. So, yeah, it looks incredible, and the audio options here are awesome. So there are 2 cuts of the film on here, and I'm just gonna read it to you straight from the back. So there's the dun, 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 those are the audio options. So you have. There's so many audio options here that I'm getting lost in like the weeds of reading the audio options. And I went through each one of them because, typically like a Blu-ray remote has a button where you can change audio options. So I was just kind of watching scenes and like clicking through all the different audio options to see how they were different from one another. And it was actually really cool because it's not just like I've said on other releases, like for instance with Hero Shed No Tears, there's an old school sounding audio track that would sound like if you had seen that movie on VHS or in theaters or whatever. That's kind of like that old school mono kind of sound. But then there's like a really fancy remastered surround sound type one that sounds a lot more modern. And you get that on the Dragons Forever release too. On the Miracles release is really interesting because the 2 tracks have different mixing levels. So you hear like background noise is louder in one of them. This one kind of goes through all kinds of different stuff. So it has there's one track that has that kind of mono old school Hong Kong sound. There's a dub, like a classic English dub on here. There's a version that has the Cantonese language audio, but with the music from the Japanese version. And that's really interesting because I was going back and forth between Cantonese audio with the original Hong Kong music and then Cantonese audio with the Japanese music. And the one with the original Hong Kong music has a lot of that kind of, if you see this movie, there's like this kind of like little jingles that play, especially when Sammo's character is on screen. It's like this silly kind of like cartoony type music. That's not really in the Japanese version. And then the Japanese version has songs, like pop songs, canto pop songs that aren't in the Hong Kong version. So like in the opening scene, if you're familiar with that scene, when they're doing like the SWAT exercise in the woods with the military guys, there's a song, like a sung like pop song by Jackie Chan that plays in that scene that is not in the Hong Kong audio version. So the 2 cuts are the Japanese cut and then the standard Hong Kong cut. So the standard Hong Kong cut is 91 minutes and the Japanese cut is 99 minutes. And it's 2 added fight scenes basically. And then there's also some outtakes at the end. You know how they do that with like classic Jackie Chan movies. The 2 fight scenes are awesome and they're definitely worth it. And if you love those classic 80s Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Yuen Biao style fight scenes, then you have to watch that because it's really like that version of it. And several people actually messaged me on Instagram and were like, they said 2 things to me. One was when you get that release, because like obviously I'm in LA, so this has to come across the ocean and then all the way across the country to get to me, whereas people in the UK or people on the East Coast and stuff were getting it kind of before me. It was hitting their mailboxes first. So people were messaging me being like, you gotta watch the Japanese cut with the Cantonese audio, with the hybrid, with the Japanese soundtrack, and then you got to watch this one bonus feature, which I'm going to talk about soon, which is one of the reasons that this is my new favorite Blu-ray release. I should also show you that I have, this is like an old Hong Kong DVD of Heart of Dragon, and I watched this like maybe in March, maybe in April. Hey, look, there I am. And so I felt like I didn't really need to watch the Hong Kong cut again so soon because I just saw it like a couple months ago. And so I went with the Japanese one and I watched it a couple times. I watched it just to watch the movie, and then I watched it again. I didn't watch the entire thing, but I watched a fair amount of it again, going through all the different audio options to kind of see like what sounded like what. And I skipped different scenes. Like I said, I would watch a fight scene and then watch a dramatic scene and then watch like one of the more comedic scenes and kind of play the different audio options and see what they sounded like. So, and this is a really great movie. I'm going to do a different review where I talk about this movie and kind of put on my screenwriter hat. So I've been doing these videos recently, and maybe you've seen where I kind of, I have a graduate degree in screenwriting, and I read scripts for production companies and studios, and I work with screenwriters and stuff like that to help them finish their scripts and kind of revise them and stuff like that. And so I've been doing this thing recently where I put on my screenwriter hat and I talk about Hong Kong movies. And so I'm going to do a video about this movie in that style. So the bonus features. They're absolutely incredible. There's like 2 hours of bonus features on here, and they are amazing. And so I guess I should say the two that really, really blew my mind. So there are interviews on here, I should tell you. Jackie Chan, there's 2 interviews with Sammo Hung. There's an interview with Rocky Lai, who was he was part of like the Jackie Chan stunt team. And then there's an interview with Arthur Wong, who is a cinematographer, who was the cinematographer of this film. And he started his career really early. He was like 20, and he was an assistant camera at Golden Harvest, so he knew Jackie, and Sammo back then, but he wasn't working with them as a cinematographer until this movie. And so I'll talk about his interview in a minute here, but first mission, making of special. This is 48 minutes and 41 seconds, and this is like probably the most amazing behind the scenes thing I've ever seen on like a classic 80s Jackie Chan movie. It's like I said, it's almost 50 minutes, and it was filmed for the Japanese audience. So a Japanese camera crew basically went to Hong Kong when they were shooting this movie and seems to have had totally unfettered access to Jackie, Sammo, Yun Biu, who is the I think he's credited as like the action director, the stunt coordinator. I'll talk more about that in a minute, because Sammo in his interview kind of talks about their relationship on this film. But you see, like, for instance, Jackie was filming multiple movies at this time, I think 2 or 3 movies, because Police Story, The Protector, Heart of Dragon, Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, and My Lucky Stars all came out in 1985. So that's at least 5 movies that Jackie was in that year. And so he would film night shoots on one movie and then be taken in a car to the set of Heart of Dragon. He would sleep in the car. Then he would get to the set of Heart of Dragon and he would sleep in his own car on the set. I don't know if someone drove it to the set for him or what, but he would it was like kind of a hatchback with like fold down seats, and he would just sleep in the back of the car. So there's footage of him just like sleeping in the back of the car and then getting woken up, and he gets dressed and he goes down to the set, and like you see Sammo and Yun Biu and Jackie working on fight scenes together. And I learned so much too about kind of like the communal, the real like behind the scenes communal effort that went into making these films. Like you see Jack Ma was a producer on this film. He's also an actor, so you'll recognize him if you've seen a lot of Jackie Chan movies. Like I think he was in Drunken Master 2, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a scene in the movie where Jackie's character first like joins the CID team. So he moves from SWAT to CID. I think CID are kind of like the detectives. So like Hardboiled, Chow Yun-Fett's character in Hardboiled is CID. It's like that kind of like detective cop type thing. So Jackie joins the CID, and his boss is played by Melvin Wong. And in the first scene where Jackie meets Melvin Wong and he goes to his office, it's a pretty short scene, and it's shot in a really, really small, cramped space. And they show the shooting of that scene. So they show like, the camera's on Melvin Wong and all the lights are pointed at him. And then they have to switch everything around to be pointed at Jackie. And Sammo is nowhere to be seen. And Wu Ma is basically directing that scene. And he's like working with the camera operator, and he's working with the lights. And you see, again, with Jackie being so tired working all these movies, you see him sleeping. He's not like lying on the desk. He's like sitting with his hands on the desk and his head on his hands, just sleeping, like as they change the camera and the lighting setup and everything like that. So and there's another scene where he's like asleep on a bench, and Fruit Chan, I think, who, you know, became like a really well-known director, but was an assistant director with Sammo back in the day. You see him come and like wake Jackie up and is like, "Hey, we're ready for you. We gotta go shoot." You see Yoon Bi-woo work. So, like I said, Yoon Bi-woo is credited, I think, as an action director, but Sammo Hung says in his interview that basically the deal was that Sammo Hung directed the action and conceived of the action basically and like did a lot of the choreography, but Yoon Bi-woo was his assistant and so helped with the choreography, helped with the directing, but then Yoon Bi-woo was the trainer for the fighters. So you see like footage of Sammo working with Yoon Bi-woo and the stunt performers being like, okay, well, let's shoot like this kind of thing. And then, because, you know, a lot of the fight scenes have a lot of cuts in them, like static camera moves, cut, and then you cut to like the next action, right? So you see Sammo being like, well, we'll get this action here, cut that, and then we'll change the angle, we'll get that action there, cut that, and then Sammo's not there anymore, and you see Yoon Bi-woo working with the stunt performers and with Jackie and stuff like that, like getting everything down. It's really cool, like doing rehearsals and stuff like that. So, I mean, I could go on forever about how awesome. Like, there's one part where Yoon Bi-woo is like doing a little interview talking to the Japanese audience, and then there's like someone banging on a car in the background, and you hear like the director of the piece being like, "Can we do that again? Because I hear someone banging on a car." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." There's also that bit may have been in First Mission behind the scenes pre-release, which was a Shochiku video, Shochiku being like a Japanese studio. It was screened at the Shinjuku Shochiko, which must have been their theater in Shinjuku in August of 1985. So it's this 15-minute thing that's basically a preview of the movie that has footage from the movie and all the behind-the-scenes footage and stuff like that, and then has little interviews with all the actors and stuff like that too. It's really cool. So like the Yoon Bi-woo interview that I mentioned and stuff like that. Something else that I forgot to mention that's really cool is that you see the car chase scene in this movie, right? And there's a scene where the car chase comes out of the parking garage and it hits like a ramp and goes flying. The yellow car that Jackie Chan is driving. They show them setting up the ramp for that scene, and they start at like 2 a.m. and then, you know, they're building the ramp until like 6 a.m. and then they do the shoot, and they're talking about how like they weren't really supposed to be doing car chases, so they were trying to avoid like the cops coming by and like doing it in the middle of the night and stuff like that, and then getting the shot really early in the morning. And something that's really interesting is that you can actually see what it looks like is that the car hits like a bunch of garbage in a dumpster and then goes flying up. But there's a ramp underneath all the stuff. You can see the ramp in the movie, and I didn't know that. But when I saw them getting ready to set up the shot, I saw what the ramp looked like. Then when I watched the movie again, I was like, oh, you can see like a corner of the ramp sticking out. There's a motorcycle accident in the movie that I had never noticed before, where like a guy goes flying off a motorcycle and actually seriously hurt himself and have to go to the hospital. There were a lot of injuries on the set of this movie. So the part with the explosion, that's towards the end, the grenade explosion, you'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen this movie, and they all jump out of the building. Someone got like seriously hurt doing that and had to be in the hospital for a while. And then the craziest thing to me is that there's that stunt where the guy jumps out of the window of that restaurant where Dick Way has come to meet him, but actually he's come to like try to kill him, and he runs away and jumps out the window, and then he lands on a car. They rehearsed that 15 times, and there were no accidents for the whole 15 rehearsals that they did. And then on the first take, the stunt performer jumped too far and didn't hit there's like an awning that he hits to kind of bounce off of, misses the awning and goes like 4 floors straight down onto the concrete, and the car that's coming through almost hits him and like slams on its brakes, and he was apparently in the hospital for like 3 months and was really seriously hurt. So, and it's just they have that footage, and that footage is in the bonus stuff, and it's just really crazy to see. So the interviews, there's 2 interviews with Sammo. One is in English and one is in Cantonese, and both he and Jackie's interview is in English, and both he and Jackie talk about how, and I think that the interviews are about an hour total. So there's like the 2 interviews with Sam are like, one is like maybe 11 or 12 minutes and one is like 8 minutes. The Jackie one's about 10 minutes. The Rocky Lai one is about 10 minutes, and the Arthur Wong one is like 15 minutes if I remember correctly. Jackie and Sammo both talk about how they wanted to make a more serious movie where they could act seriously, that would be kind of a drama, but still include kind of some of the action set pieces. But Golden Harvest actually really wanted Sammo to fight in this movie. And he's like, no, it doesn't make sense to the movie. Like, if we want to maintain the tone and the integrity of the film, I can't do any fight scenes. And he like really stood his ground on that. And I think the movie is much better for it, because I think it would have been very preposterous if his character was doing fighting. If you know the film, you probably know what I'm talking about. But like Jackie talked about, like he wants to get into a different style, a different type of filmmaking. One thing that's really interesting is Jackie talked about how Sammo used tons of dolly movements, especially in the final fight scene, and with him and Dick Way, and how that was really, really hard because they're moving so quickly, and it's such tight, aggressive choreography. Actually, at one point, Dick Way accidentally knees Jackie and really knocks the wind out of him. You can see in the behind the scenes footage, Jackie falls over, and all these people have to come over, and he has to take a break and stuff like that. Dick Way really kind of knocks the crap out of him. But because they're using these dollies, so if you don't know what a dolly is, basically they lay track that looks like miniature train track, and then they put this little cart on top of it, and the camera goes on top of that, and that's how you get those really smooth back and forth or in and out movements, but not using a zoom. With the in and out, you're actually just pushing the camera towards something or following something, with the camera. And that's what's called a tracking shot. So a lot of people use tracking shot when they're actually talking about steady cam shots, which is a completely different thing. A lot of film critics and stuff like that will confuse the two of them, but a tracking shot is a shot that uses track, so a dolly, right? So they're doing these dollying shots during this fight scene, and Jackie's talking about how he and Dick Way, while they're fighting and remembering the fight choreography and stuff, have to be mindful of the speed at which the camera is moving, so that they are keeping in frame and in the right part of the frame, along with the tracking of the camera, and staying the same distance from camera so the shot doesn't go out of focus. So it's just the amount of effort and work and expertise that went into making these movies is just insane. And I know that in the abstract, but to really see it and to hear the interviews and stuff like that is just nuts. But I mean, I could go on forever. I wrote pages and pages of notes about the bonus features in here. But I think I've given you hopefully a pretty good overview of what's on here. Truly incredible. Like I said, this is my new favorite. No hyperbole here. This is my new favorite Blu-ray release of a classic 80s Hong Kong movie. Like I said, I'll be doing kind of a review screenwriter take on that film as well, so look out for that on the channel. Thank you so much for watching and for following us. If you're not following us, if you're watching on YouTube and you could subscribe, that would be a huge help. Yay, thank you. If you're on Instagram TV, also, thank you for following us. We will tag 88 Films on IGTV, so you can just go over their profile, find them. You should follow them. You should check all their stuff out. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put a link in the description of the video to where you can find that Blu-ray and their website and everything like that. My name is Will. I think that's about it, right? This is Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.